Manses in New Jersey. Okay, let's get back to work. 20 NFL teams begin OTAs tomorrow. Time now for some Graziano. Didn't get the emphasis on the right syllable.
You're good.
What can you tell us about the Browns quarterback competition?
It looks like Todd Monken, the new head coach, is splitting up the offseason reps between Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson. Yes, Deshaun Watson is still there. He's entering the 5th and final year of the 5-year, fully guaranteed $230 million contract they gave him as a condition of the trade that brought him there from Houston. He has played a grand total of 19 games over the first 4 years, but he's healthy and apparently a candidate to win the starting quarterback job in Cleveland.
I love this topic because we think that maybe even
IT looks skeptical.
Do you think he can be
Silly
successful?
me. I'm just looking at the facts. Okay, first of all, Deshaun Watson was a great quarterback in 2020. He had 33 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. That was 6 years ago. Dan mentioned he's played 19 games. He didn't tear his Achilles tendon once, which is a catastrophic injury for quarterbacks. He did it twice. He played 7 games 2 years ago. If the 4 of us were running the Cleveland Browns and we had to feed our family based on the reasonable likelihood of good quarterback play, that is not the fact pattern we would be basing it on.
No, but if we were trying to feed our family, we probably also wouldn't have signed that contract and made a trade that we did.
Why not go with Shedeur Sanders, where he showed some flashes as a rookie? He has high upside. If I was running the Browns, why not go
because
with
you paid him the money.
Right, but that's a sunk cost, and that's ancient history.
Yeah.
So then if that's the case, why didn't you cut him or waive him and let him go sign somewhere and try and be a backup and do that? Like, listen, Deshaun Watson, for all that we talk about Deshaun Watson, what he hadn't been, what he was pretty special.
Yep.
3-time Pro Bowler. He at one point people were making the argument, would he be better on Kansas City than Patrick Mahomes? Now, I know that's laughable now, but the kid is only 30 years old. You can't tell me that somebody's career in football life is over at 30 when you talk about quarterbacks playing to 40. Yes, he's had 2 ACLs, but so did Thomas Davis, and he was a linebacker. I don't need him to be running around. I need him to be able to throw the ball from the pocket, and we know he has tremendous arm talent. We know traditionally he was a winner. I think maybe just under Stefanski, that was the wrong system for him, and the injuries played a big role. We understood the circumstances in which he got there in.
It was the wrong system for a guy that's always hurt to be successful in. That's true. Like, he hasn't been healthy. He hasn't been on the field. He led the league in passing yards 6 years ago and has barely played since. If the Browns and he's on the team because he has to be, because the money's guaranteed.
Yes.
I mean, to answer your question, why not cut him? Got to pay him $46 million no matter what. And right now they've restructured that contract so much that if they cut him, the dead money cap hit would be well over $100 million. So they're stuck with him. Maybe they're hoping he plays well in the preseason. Somebody trades something for him. I don't know, but I think it's like if we can get something out of this guy before the end of this, franchise-crushing contract that we handed out, great.
Do you know the history of we all know aware of the history of the Cleveland Browns, right?
Sure.
Nothing good ever happens to them. What can be the worst thing than Deshaun Watson taking $230 million and then ball out on his way out the door, and you know you can't re-sign him because of what he's done the years before? That is perfect Cleveland drama.
That is sadly true.
All right, we're going to leave that one there because we're just 8 days away from June 1st, which is significant
I believe in you, Deshaun.
in the NFL. Graziano, it's on this one, A.J. Brown.
Yeah, next week after June 1st, the expectation continues to be that the Eagles will trade wide receiver A.J. Brown. The Patriots continue to be viewed as the most likely destination. They waiting till after June 1st because it allows them to spread the dead money out over this year and next year, whereas if they made the trade before June 1st, they couldn't do that. They'd have to take a huge dead money hit this year, probably cut and restructure some contracts that they don't want to do. So I would say that we're sitting here this time next week. We're talking about being on the verge of an A.J. Brown trade likely to the New England Patriots.
All right, so we're going to keep it quarterback because is this going to be addition by subtraction for Jalen Hurts this season?
I believe so, and I think the last example we saw of that is when the Bills moved on for Stephon Diggs. I think, this is telling Jalen Hurts, this is your team, but you better show that you can produce. And this is a great opportunity also for Devontae Smith to prove that he's a number one receiver. Like sometimes, when you have a receiver that's asking for the ball, the divas, right, it distracts the quarterback in the floor of the offense. And maybe you can't run the offense because you got to, cater to his ego. When you have a team of good players, not great players, the ball goes where the defense dictates. So now it makes it harder to defend when there's no definite number one, but we think Devontae Smith can be that number one.
There was the timing of that article that came out earlier this offseason on ESPN.com about Jalen Hurts specifically.
Yeah.
especially with the A.J. Brown stuff going on. So you're a front office, you're the GM, you get rid of the very talented receiver, you put it on the quarterback's shoulders. Is it all or nothing for Hurts coming into the season?
I don't know if it's all or nothing, but it's a really high bar in Philadelphia. We saw him replace Carson Wentz. They have a player behind him in Tanner McKee that they like. And I'm not suggesting that Tanner McKee's going to replace Jalen Hurts, but the concern I have is the size of the Philadelphia receivers. We have a graphic here. If you think about the receiver position, guys, as a basketball team, A.J. Brown's your power forward at 226 pounds. Now, look, Devontae Smith could be a number one, but look at the weight difference between the next biggest receiver. Last year, Jalen Hurts averaged 10 attempts per game throwing between the numbers. That was 28th in the league, thanks to Rias. So the question is going to be is who's going to take care of some of this heavy lifting for Philadelphia? Are they going to try to get the ball more between the numbers with new offensive coordinator Sean Mannion? So there are a number of questions. This is a big year for Jalen Hurts, just, again, given the bar in Philadelphia.
Look, he's signed for 3 more years. He's got $22 million in guaranteed money in 2027. So that feels like it locks him in. But to your point, the Eagles have a history of moving on, even from Super Bowl heroes, if they decide the time is right and it's not the right guy. So I do think there's a lot of pressure on Jalen Hurts this season. He has to learn a new offense yet again, as he always does. And yes, I think there's a big question. Devontae Smith, can he be a real number one? Physically, he doesn't profile that way.
What does A.J. Brown bring back in return, though, as well?
Good question. Because I think it's going to be interesting. That's something. I mean, it could bring back a first-round pick.
And maybe something else, right? So you look at that. It's a guy named Brandon Ayuk out there. You can, trade one problem for the next and get him on the cheap.
We'll table that for the June 2nd rundown. Shall we? The New York Giants. Eventful week. First on Thursday, head coach John Harbaugh said he didn't know when Malik Neighbors would be back from what he said was, quote, not a simple knee injury. Neighbors tore the ACL on his right knee in September. Has had 2 surgeries since. On the same day, Giants defensive lineman Roy Robertson Harris tore his Achilles while working out. He'll miss the entire season. He was expected to start as the Giants try to rebuild the interior of their line after trading Dexter Lawrence. And then Friday, quarterback Jackson Dart introduced President Trump at a prep rally in New York, and his appearance with the president prompted his teammate Abdul Carter to respond on social media, saying afterwards, quote, thought this blank was AI. What we doing, man? Did after the post sparked considerable reaction from around the league. He then responded with, me and JD6, quarterback Dart, are good. We spoke earlier as men. Y'all can keep y'all narratives. So that's what's been going on. That's a week in review for the Giants by Scott.
For May,
and Dan Graziano. That's a news-packed first part in May. Political differences aside, not getting into that because no one cares. What we care about is how early on in a tenure with a head coach there could be an issue in the locker room. How are you handling this as GM?
Well, first of all, it's family business. There's always going to be disagreements. But more fundamentally, the job description of a quarterback is, do your teammates believe that you can lead them to where you want to go? And if I'm Jackson Dart, the most disturbing number from last year is he was hit 148 times in 12 games as a starter. That is simply not sustainable. So you have to earn the trust of your teammates. It starts in the offseason, but at the end of the day, they have to believe, can this guy take us to a championship level?
So, Bart, you get in the locker room, you got a new head coach, and you guys, we talked about this extensively this morning, that the foundation of a football team is in the locker room, a sanctuary that no one from the outside should see.
Yeah.
This is a challenge early on for Harbaugh to build that foundation in the locker room.
Yeah, that's what, being a new coach and the first time, being in New York, and you're trying to cultivate a culture and build a culture of accountability, but also trust and belief in each other, right? And, guys have different political, religious affiliations and things like that. And that's the beauty of a locker room. It is a microcosm of society. Everything you have in society, you have it within that locker room, but we put all those differences aside for the betterment of the team. These are 2 young players that I think didn't handle it as a professional, right? Because if you have a problem with somebody, you speak to them. And if you're going to do something that could be seen as divisive, you want to address that before so that your teammate's not caught off guard by TMZ or somebody out that's asking, hey, did you see this? And then they have to respond to it. And sometimes it's not what you want to hear. Harbaugh has a lot on his plate because you talk about, Harbaugh's trying to bring toughness here, right? And you talk about Jackson Dart and how he has to understand how important he is and how he has to not – he's in concussion protocol 5 times last year. That's never good if you're going to be a franchise quarterback. But then he doubles down on it, right? And he says, hey, that's just how I play. Then he talks about toughness and what Harbaugh was talking about. Like, listen, he's talking about toughness for everybody, not you. That message isn't for you. So he has to do a better job of understanding, and these are young leaders that are going to have to develop, and we don't know who are the leaders of this team.
But and you think, though, potentially that something this early in the offseason, we got 3 months till the regular season starts, something this early in the offseason could actually help Harbaugh further that culture because it has to get worked out.
Right. I mean, look, yes, it offers the opportunity to have constructive discussions behind the scenes that help the players in the locker room understand, each other foundationally at a different level. And I think that's, ultimately, if that's what comes out of this, then good. I think it kind of underscores the challenge that John Harbaugh has here. Yeah. Because with Bart's point about it's a young team.
Yeah.
I mean, these are 2 guys that are 2 of the most prominent players on the team. They were drafted last year.
Correct.
So John Harbaugh, this isn't a Giants team where you just got to plug in veteran coach with the Super Bowl title and assume that's all you were missing. Yeah. He still has to build something that's kind of a ground-up rebuild still in New York.
And you talk about the youth of this team. One of those guys, Malik Neighbors, by no means is a veteran yet, gets injured last year. The sound came out last week. We're like, no, wait a second. That doesn't sound great. How concerning is that when you add all of it on top?
I think it's extremely concerning because for Jackson Dart to be his best, you want him to have his best receiver. Malik Neighbors is an elite talent at the position that we have seen when he's been healthy, but it doesn't sound like he's going to be healthy at the start of this season. It doesn't sound, there's questions about how effective he'll be coming off of multiple knee surgeries in the same offseason. At all this year. So I think this is a significant area of concern for the Giants. Nothing they can do about it right now other than rest him and rehab him and get him ready for whenever he can come back. But multiple knee surgeries. Yeah. The second was not planned. It was because the first one didn't work. And so, I think there's legitimate reason to wonder how much, if at all, you'll have Malik Neighbors this season, and if you do, how effective you can expect him to be.
One of the big challenges for the Giants is Jackson Dart and Malik Neighbors played together in one game, and look who they're competing against. You think about the offenses of Dallas and Philadelphia, Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, great quarterbacks with great skill players. And look, Washington, Jaden Daniels went to the Final Four his rookie year. Obviously, he got hurt last year, so this is a division you're going to have to score points. It starts with your quarterback, who's going to have to stay healthy. And Malik Neighbors is a great player, but it is ominous what John Harbaugh said before the draft. And now that he's already had a second surgery, that would be a big concern.
Look, it's always going to be entertaining with any New York sports team.
Yeah.
The New York Giants, they gave us something in the offseason when the head coach is probably like, keep your head down, let's just get to work, and they still haven't complete